Welcome to This Week in Our Collective Heads, episode 27. And I'm Kevin. I apologize for an audio-only podcast. We've tried to avoid these wherever we can, but we wanted to go ahead and bring you an episode no matter what. So here we are doing that. And I'd like to start with something that happened actually last week. Somebody tweeted at Phil Spencer, asked him about Uncharted. Or not about Uncharted, but they just asked him, what is he excited about in the coming year? And he replied, quote, Gears. I thought the Division beta was very good. People will block me, but Uncharted 4 will be a great game, I'm sure. Love the Quantum Break story. I thought that was pretty cool. And then somebody apparently tweeted at him, grr, angry, rawr, Xbox rules and PlayStation sucks and it should die. Something like that. I assume that's what they said in that tone. But he came back and he said, we should all applaud when a team does something special. Those who hope for a team to fail due to platform aren't real gamers. And I thought that was just one of the greatest things ever. That's why I love Phil Spencer. We love Phil Spencer. We love Major Nelson and Shuhei. They're all pulling for each other. They all want games in general to succeed. And I think that that's just one of the most awesome things ever, and to have people like that in charge of a console just means something awesome, and I just really appreciate that. We have an official release date for Overwatch, which is one of the Overwatch and the Paragons and the Lawbreakers and Undertakers. I don't know. It's one of those, but it's May 24th, and that's when that one's going to come out. And it was interesting. You'll hear this several times throughout today, but this leaked in an interesting way. It was actually an ad on IGN that went up like a week early or something. So that was fun. In more disappointing news, Lionhead Studio is going to be shut down, and Fable Legends is going to be canceled. They've been in closed beta on that one forever, and most of the people who were fans of the Fable game were really disappointed not to see a proper Fable game. Something very similar to what you're seeing in the Metroid franchise. Like if you were giving us single-player Fable games, awesome, bring it out. But that's not what they were doing. This is the 4v1 Dungeon Master thing. And some of the people who played it have really enjoyed it. It just doesn't feel like a Fable game. And I think that's the thing that most people had a problem with. After the Fable thing kind of blew up, the next day or maybe 2 days after that, Sony Europe actually announced that they're holding a recruitment event for Lionhead Studios staff, which I thought was really awesome. And this is not a yay, Sony's doing the right thing and Xbox is doing the no. Studios shut down, and these kind of things happen, and I'm sure that some of the developers were quickly snatched up by other people. But I thought it was really cool that Sony reached out and they were like, hey, this is a thing that sucks. We're disappointed. We know you're disappointed. You've put your time, your heart, and your soul into this thing. Let us help you out. Let's keep developers, up and running, because that's what everybody wants. More developers employed means more games. More good developers at work means more good games. And so I thought that was a really cool thing for them to kind of reach out and do. We have a release date for Carmageddon. It's going to be coming out June 3rd. And Carmageddon is the one that was you run over people and get money and and yeah, it's a really, and you hear this a lot from me, but it's a dumb fun game. And this is actually Carmageddon Max Damage. It was the one that was kickstarted. They got a hold of the IP and were like, hey, we'll make this thing again. So that's coming out June 3rd for PC, Xbox, and PS4, if I'm not mistaken. I'll try to check later and stuff. But yeah, speaking of release dates, Tyrone Rodriguez and Ed McMillan, two of the people working on the Binding of Afterbirth, they tweeted out that the final submissions for Afterbirth on console are the end of, this week. And they hope to have it out next month in North America and the European areas, which is awesome. You guys know how much I love Binding of Isaac. And Afterbirth is this weird, crazy thing, new bosses, new stages, and like there's greed mode is a really cool thing that anyway, if you're into Binding of Isaac, this is something worth being excited about. I'm excited about it. You should be excited about it. So hopefully we'll be able to get that out soon. And so it's been submitted to CERT, and that makes me smile. You can't see it right now, but I have a giant smile on my face. So I hope that comes through in this audio episode. And again, sorry for that. Destiny New York, also known as The Division, had some really interesting things because this is the first really big launch out of Ubisoft. And so they had some issues. The first night the servers went down like all over for like an hour and a half, and because it's Ubisoft servers, basically all their servers went down, which is crazy. But even with as many betas as they had, nothing quite compares to a full-on live world test. And it ended up being the best-selling Ubisoft game in their history launch, which is crazy because they've got the Far Cry's and they've got the Assassin's Creeds, but this one just topped them all. There's some really funny stories came out of it too. There was an element during the initial training where they had like everybody on, I don't know, less than 100 instances of this thing, and you had to go up to a laptop, press F to log in, and then go off and do mission training things, come back, go to the laptop, push F, log in, and then you can go to the real actual game. Well, the problem is that they could only have one person at a time on the laptops. So yeah, that didn't work very well. Bunch of people crowding around trying to tap F repeatedly. But it was really cool because there's been a couple of screenshots floating around of, well, there's one now, of people queuing up and making reasonable, orderly lines just to show up and be like, hey, it's my turn, I'm next. On the other end of things, because you could be in an instance with specific other people and not really able to get out of it, people were standing in doorways that noobs were required to get through, and they were actually like holding up other people's progress, and it's not a very pleasant thing. But yeah, just a bunch of weird stuff. And this is Ubisoft's first like big multiplayer launch. They've had multiplayer in Far Cry and Assassin's Creed and all that, but this was their first big multiplayer focused game, and so you're gonna expect kind of stuff like that. And last thing about the Division, the laptop bit that I was talking about a second ago was actually patched out, so now you don't have to do that anymore, or it comes through an instance or something. Anyway, they figured it out, and nobody has to line up because that's dumb. We want to play the game. We don't want to line up to log in on an imaginary keyboard. So anyway, they seem to be really on top of it and moving forward with the things that they need to do to make the game enjoyable. And in general, what I've heard has been positive. People are generally having positive experiences with the game. There was a quote, one of the pieces of ambient conversation when you run by a passerby. Colin Moriarty pointed this out. He said that when he was running past an NPC player, they said, "Man, I bet nobody's worried about eating gluten anymore." And I thought that was funny. So yeah, but let us know in the comments if you're playing Division, what you think of it. How's your experience going? Are you standing in a doorway blocking people? Alright, so let us know. As far as online stuff goes and improving things and such, Capcom last week or the week before, they started instituting a rage quit penalty. They wanted people to report, hey, this person is rage quitting on a regular basis, because in game there's actually not anything to keep people from just rage quitting and it not counting against them or for them. So one of the really high ranked players, he was like up to 10,000 points or something, got knocked all the way down to 940 something. It was outrageous, and he was very not excited, I would imagine. But yeah, they are actually enforcing that, and all they have right now for ways to report this is they're just having people send in screenshots to their Twitter account. It's not the most efficient. It's not obviously their end solution, but I appreciate the fact that they realize there's a problem and they're working toward fixing it. Especially since this is, one of their few new games that's coming out. Most of their stuff that they're doing right now, Capcom has become this giant remastering machine. But Street Fighter V, they put it up, they're supporting it, and, in a couple of months, whenever there's enough of a game there, I'll probably pick it up. Next up, we have some Battlefront news. The free March update is actually going to include single-player content, which is super exciting for those of us who like single-player content. They're not gonna throw a full campaign in there, but they are making more missions and giving us a little more to do when we're not, wanting to shoot at random online people. The Outer Rim DLC is coming out April 5th, which is a slight delay. They said it was going to come out in March, but I mean, this is less than a week out of March. I guess I'll give it to them. You get to be an enforcer for the Hutts, which I think is awesome. You get to take missions from Jabba and go out and, fulfill a bounty, be a merc, which I think is pretty fun. And so that'll be coming out again April 5th, and I think it's going to be $14.99 for the first bit, everybody with a season pass. I would imagine most of the people that are going for DLC as far as Star Wars is concerned just went for the season pass. But hey, if you didn't, let me know in the comments, and let me know if $14.99 for enforcer duty seems like a reasonable deal to you. Rock Band 4 is bringing out new peripherals from Not Mad Cats. It's PDP, somebody that I'm not necessarily familiar with, and they're going to publish new peripherals with PDP doing the co-publishing. And they were talking a lot of smack about Mad Cats, being like, well, we needed somebody that could deliver the kind of quantities that we're looking for. And I'm like, okay, your game didn't sell that well. Mad Cats can probably handle all this. But I don't know. It was just a weird situation, and we'll see if they get maybe a new peripheral, bring back keyboards or something. Or if it'll just be fancier, more or less plasticky, cheaper, more expensive. I don't know. We'll see. But whenever those come out, whenever those come out, we will let you know, and we will try to get our hands on a couple of them, let you know if they're worth it. So we found out a little bit more about Gears 4. JD Phoenix, Marcus's son, is going to be the main protagonist, and there's two other characters, one of whom is voiced by Laura Bailey. I love Laura Bailey. She is awesome. And it's going to be 25 years after the end of the last Mass Effect. Actually, I don't... You'll have to forgive me. I don't know a whole lot about the actual Gears storyline, because I know there's 1, 2, 3, and then Judgment, but... yeah, so 25 years after whatever the last one was chronologically, and it's going to be Marcus's son, and I'm hoping, me personally, that Marcus is going to be still there in more of a command type sense. He's sending people out, and he becomes kind of the guy that's giving you the orders and keeping you in perspective. I think that would be cool. One of the cool thing about this is Gears 4 is going to have split screen. They verified that co-op split screen is going to be a thing, which is wonderful because that game is so much more fun to play with somebody else. It's a squad-based game. There's no reason for it not to have split screen. Looking at you, Halo. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And now that I'm into the Gears series, I might go over and play it with Patrick and be like, yay, let's go through this. Or I'll sit and watch while you and Whitney go through it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out. We'll probably be streaming that. A new PS4 game was announced, and it's caused for more puns and dad jokes than I have ever heard in any week in video game podcasts. The game is called Everything. So people have been saying, everything coming to PS4, or everything's being released next week. And I'll need to see this one before I can really figure out how I feel about it. But the way that it's being pitched is it's a game where you can take control of literally everything. The example they used is everything from a paperclip to the sun. Now, I don't know what you do as the sun or as a paper. Well, we all know what you do as a paperclip. You tell people, where their grammar errors are, which honestly doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. But yeah, you can play as a sun or a mountain or a So go check that trailer out, because it could be a really cool thing. Kind of reminded me of Wild. It's coming out in a couple months this year, I think. Yeah, Wild's coming out this year. But yeah, working on the way to make that entertaining. And if it is, it could be a really interesting game. Because Flower, what are you playing as? Wind. That doesn't sound like fun, but that game is awesome. Go buy Flower. Prison Architect is on Steam, and it's been there for 5-6 months. And apparently, by clicking a certain place, you can actually turn the game 3D, which it's typically an isometric top-down thing. And yeah, it took players like 5.5 months to figure out that this mode was even in the game. And I find that hilarious, because it's with all the data miners, it's so hard to keep secrets about games anymore. But apparently this group managed, and kudos to them, because that's tricky. And I'm sure that this is something that the game probably died down as far as excitement goes, and people will be like, hey, I want to see what a 3D mode is like, and then kind of get talk going about your game again. So congratulations to them. Worms, Weapon of Mass Destruction, is coming to the PS4, Xbox One, and Steam. It's coming later this year. They haven't given us a date or anything, but Worms is kind of like Lemmings. I feel like it's been on pretty much every platform, but each one of them is entertaining in its own way. And so I'll probably be picking this up, or at the very least checking it out. And I encourage you to do the same, because Worms is awesome, especially if you can get, a couple people together and just blow the heck out of each other with flying sheep and airstrikes and TNT, and yeah, it's Worms is awesome, and I'm excited. I'll probably get it. I spend too much on games, but I'm doing it for you now, because it's a business thing. I'm doing it for my business. You will love business. So let me know how lousy my Sam the Eagle thing is in the comments. EVE Online has a new minigame that is actually helping out real-world science puzzles. One of the biggest things that scientists are working on now is kind of mapping out the structure of proteins and the way that they fit together and everything. And the patterns will eventually become a thing that you can plug into an algorithm and do all that kind of stuff. But it's so complex and abstract that computers aren't yet able to really look at them and figure out which proteins are related, which ones are similar. And so there's been a couple of things. I think there was a game on Steam at one point, and that the research and the results are actually sent back. But EVE Online, I'll be honest, EVE Online is not for me. But I have nothing but respect for those guys. Icelandic developers, who knew? But yeah, they've created an incredible game where you can play that game as your job. And now you can help with science. Everybody loves science, except for, well, we won't talk about those people. But yeah, exciting news for importers, as Amazon Japan is now shipping internationally, which PlayAsia, I'm sure, is not excited about, but everybody else should be. And considering that, Xbox and PS4 are not region locked, so if you want to import your stuff and you speak Japanese, or you don't speak Japanese and you just don't care about the story, then yeah, you can import that stuff. And they didn't say anything about pricing, but at least they're shipping, and that is pretty exciting. Sumo Digital is taking over the work on Dead Island 2. You may remember a little while ago that was one of the properties that was being worked on by Jaeger, and Deep Silver ended up shutting that studio down. But the work, I mean, they had done work, and Dead Island 2 was doing its thing, and then it kind of went away. But Sumo Digital is taking over, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with that, because honestly, the only game that I've ever played by them is Sonic Racing, and I don't know how that's gonna translate to the zombies and the deads and the islands. But hey, just like everything else in this, we'll see. Hitman info has dropped. They have the details of the April missions, and you're going to Italy, and you're gonna kill people in Italy. That's always exciting. They have delayed the disc release all the way back to 2017, and it's I would love someday, and I hope someday we get this, but I would love to know the behind the scenes on this, because it was going to be a disc game, and then it was going to be a digital only game and episodic, and then it was going to be a disc game again, and now it's episodic, and it'll be on disc, in summer. No, it'll be on disc in 2017, and I have no idea what's going on under the hood and everything, but I'm sure it's a fascinating story. And right now you can go ahead and pick up the first bit for $15, and if you buy it piecemeal, you're gonna spend a little bit more. But for me personally, I would rather spend an extra, I think it's $5, and just see what they do with it. I'm way more interested in that than just trusting and being like, hey, Square Enix, take all my money, because frankly I don't have that kind of trust in Square Enix anymore. Well, I've never had trust in Square Enix. I had trust in Squaresoft, and I had trust in Enix, but together, not so much. Digital Foundry also did a bit on Hitman, and it really didn't seem up to par. They were talking about frame rate spikes dropping all the way down to like 20s and such, where it's normally running at at least 30, 40. But one thing that they mentioned that can help, particularly with the actual retail release, because these spikes were seen on the demo that was released a couple weeks ago, last week? I don't know, I didn't play it. But yeah, apparently if you go in the options menu and lock the frame rate at 30, apparently that gives you better performance. So there's your pro tip for this week, brought to you by TWIOCH and Digital Foundry, I guess. Next up, we have Fallen Legion, and I am so excited about this game. It's coming out in summer for Vita and PS4, and they have said that it's going to be day and date on Vita. This was actually, they actually revealed that this was coming to Vita on the Kinda Funny channel, which I thought was cool as heck. And we've reached out to them, and they've been very communicative, because there's a couple dozen of you that think we're pretty cool, but we're not really that big, and they're not either, frankly. And so it's really cool to be able to find somebody that's that passionate about their game. Fallen Legion, seriously, I cannot wait for this game. It looks like a mix of like Dragon's Crown and Odin's Sphere, and oh my goodness, so good. So I'm looking forward to that, and that'll be coming out this summer sometime. Speaking of Vita, Axiom Verge has been submitted to Sony for certification. So as soon as it passes cert, then we will have a launch date, and we will be keeping an eye on that. Axiom Verge came out, I want to say February or March of last year on the PS4 by it's Tom Happ. One guy made Axiom Verge, and I played it a little bit on when it came out, and I was like, hey, this is for Vita. It's just one of those games. Some of those games are like that for me. Binding of Isaac, I've tried to play, and thank you to anybody that checked out my boss rush with The Lost a couple weeks ago. But yeah, that game just belongs on Vita. It's comfortable there, it's perfect, and it's wonderful to just pick up, set down, and just go back and forth. And Axiom Verge looks like one of those games. So I'm looking forward to actually playing that. So I completely forgot about this, but everybody who bought the New Order you're going to be in the Doom multiplayer closed beta on the 31st of March, which they announced that, I don't know, like sometime in the early 2000s. But yeah, that's exciting, and multiplayer, and yeah, shoot people, blow them up, chainsaw them, do whatever it is that you do, and the demons and the humans, and the chop them up, shoot them. It's what you do. Hearthstone's next expansion has been revealed. It was actually revealed a day early because somebody put it on a billboard, which I don't know that I've ever heard of a video game leaking something via billboard, but yeah, this has been the week of leaks. I'm copywriting that, so if you say week of leaks, you have to give me $1. But yeah, the Hearthstone next expansion is going to be Whispers of the Old Gods, and it's going to be a lot of kind of the lore that reaches back to the, you know, pre-Cataclysm, all the original gods that were around for, you know, Warcraft 1 and 2 and way back in the day. So I think that'll be exciting. It's 130 some odd new cards and new modes and expansions and more Hearthstone. Different Hearthstone. New Hearthstone. So if that's what you're into, go for it. So this is the leaks section of this particular podcast, even though I know I already did a leak earlier, and maybe that one leaked. Anyway, Disney Infinity, they're bringing out the Finding Dory characters, and that leaked on a box of mac and cheese. I'm not even kidding. It's somebody snapped a picture of it, and it was like, hey, you can play as Dory in Disney Infinity 3.0, and it's coming this summer. And somebody took a picture of it and tweeted it at Polygon or Kotaku or somebody, and they're like, so I guess that's a thing? And so, yeah, Dory leaked via mac and cheese. And the final leak for this week is Dead Star, which is a twin stick shooter for PS4 that's coming out in April. Somebody tried to buy it in the UK, and they tried to pre-order it, and the pre-order came back as, hey, we appreciate your money, but that's actually going to be free in April, and you have PlayStation Plus, so we can't really charge you. We'd feel bad about that. So they sent it on to the appropriate reporters, who went, I guess Dead Star is going to be free. So there's your first PS4 Games with Gold roundup pluses. Next up in Rocket League news, we've got a couple of pieces of news here. Dying Light and Rocket League, the respective studios, Psyonix and who is it? I don't remember. The people that did Dying Light. They're going to have crossover DLC. So there's going to be Dying Light DLC in Rocket League, and Rocket League DLC in Dying Light, which I think is the more bizarre of the two, because Rocket League just loves to pull stuff from other IPs and be like, hey, this is exciting to us. You want to have a car about it? And yeah. And then the other thing is Rocket League is getting a basketball mode. I will not be playing that. I am not nearly good enough at my aerials and such to be doing basketball. So I'll be watching that. And yeah, and you can too. I would recommend I think it's the twitch.tv/Rocket League Central is like the official big full-on thing for like the tournaments and such. And I also think it's cool if you look up there's billboards now in the game, in the stadiums. It'll say championships start on the 24th. And I think that's cool. I mean, they're advertising an event of their game in their game. I mean, those guys just know what's going on. And I love it. General Ram, General RAM. I'm sure I pronounced it right at least once. From Gears of War is coming to Killer Instinct. They haven't said which season it's going to be. I think it'll probably be, more of season 3, because they're still kind of rolling out characters on that. But yeah, he's coming to Killer Instinct, and you can kill him and shoot him with a person. And I'm really getting a kick out of how they're bringing all these IPs together. And I do think it's a bit odd that they went with one of the villains from Gears, but hey, maybe he fought better. Maybe he killed Marcus in the trials. Unlikely. That Mr. Shoulder on Shoulders, he's pretty unkillable. The Daybreak president sent out a community letter announcing that EverQuest Next has been canceled. And EverQuest Next was going to be this thing that, I don't know, it sounded really, really ambitious, really awesome, something I just hadn't seen before. Whenever they made it, there's going to be like permanent things that happened in the world, like where if you went into a dungeon and you cast a spell where like the floor fell out and you dropped an entire level on people, then that would like stay. And the EverQuest landmark, which was kind of the world building thing, which started up and you know is still going strong. That game will continue to exist and be supported, but I don't know. It's kind of sad to me because EverQuest, as I've said before, EverQuest was like my big game that I played for more hours than any other game that I have ever played, hundreds of hours, and I made some lifelong friends in that game, and I was hoping that this would be, you know, another MMO that would allow people to experience stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe I'd log on, find some more sigils. I love sigils. Sigils are cool. And last up we have the PlayStation launch party, which is a thing. Basically it's like Spring Fever was last year, and they're just bringing out, you know, some of the indie games that they want to highlight. And we're gonna do probably some first impressions type stuff on these, and if you pre-order them, then you get, I think it's 10% off. First off, we have Salt and Sanctuary is out today, so if you're listening to this right when it posts, then you know you might still have time to save 10% on it. But it's supposed to be like a 2D Souls type game thing, and you get to build a character and do RPG stuff and die a lot. It's a husband and wife team that's making it, Ska Studios, and from what I've seen, it looks fantastic, and that's one of the games that I'll be buying. So next week we'll have kind of a first look at that game. Next week is Day of the Tentacle Remastered for $15, and obviously that's Double Fine, and like all of their remasters so far, that one's coming to PS4 and Vita. And then April 5th, Enter the Gungeon by Devolver Digital, which I love those guys. Those guys find like the coolest stuff to put out. Like they really, basically they're like the American Japan studio, which I know sounds weird, but like Japan Studio is the ones that put out like some of the really beautiful games. Japan Studio is the ones that had like Eco and Shadow of the Colossus, and that game company, Flower, Journey. I mean, they've found some of the really great stuff, and you know, lately they've been finding a lot of the cool Vita things. What's the one I'm thinking of? Anyway, this is Enter the Gungeon by Devolver Digital, and Hotline Miami, that's the one. And that game is so awesome and violent and bloody and gory and wonderful. So check that out if you haven't. Next week by Spearhead Games is Stories: The Path of Destinies, which is it has a fox with a sword. So I don't know, that one didn't really grab me so much. Next up is Invisible Ink, which is coming out on the 19th of May, or not May, April, and that's by Clay Entertainment, and that's $20, and that's a stealthy thing where you don't get caught. And I think that one's already been released on Steam, but it's coming to PS4, and we're excited about that. And then last up, boom, Housemarque's new game, Alien Nation. And I am so excited because Housemarque did Resogun, which is still one of the best shooters I have ever played, and it's so pretty. So I'm looking forward to Alienation, because it's gonna be a twin stick shooter, but it's on the ground, so it looks like a mix of Helldivers and Resogun. But I mean, Housemarque are consistently awesome, and so I'll be getting Salt and Sanctuary, Enter the Gungeon, and Alienation. So I will be able to give you heads up and let you know how all those goes, and then Patrick has a hard on for Tim Schafer, so I'm sure he'll be getting, or at least explaining, why you should buy Day of the Tentacle Remastered. So that's all the news we have for this week. Apologize for the audio only, and apologize even more that you had to listen to me the entire time. But yeah, thanks for coming by. We hope you have a good week, and we will see you next time. You will see us next time. Next time we will have video. Alright, bye.